Well, I guess we can actually kick off. Those who are still yet to join us will catch us on the way. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It's a pleasure to welcome everyone. This is actually our first webinar of the year. So I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, Pathways to Boardroom Success. Today, we want to unlock what it takes to turn ambition into real impact. We want to explore the skills, the mindset, and the strategies that really make candidates board ready. By the end of this, we want to make sure that you've got the practical steps that will take you and make you be able to navigate the boardroom with confidence, with ease, and with influence. So this is an open chat where if you've got any questions for us, please put them in the chat box and hopefully we are able to answer your questions by the end of the sessions, and you can really learn one or two things from us this afternoon. Overview of our session this afternoon is we want to recognize what makes a candidate board ready. We also want to spot the common pitfalls that really stall one's ambition to becoming a board member. We want to learn the practical strategies to build credibility and influence as a board member. And finally, we want to really learn how do you turn that ambition into tangible board impact. So if this is what you're here for, welcome and thank you so much for being here with us. We hope that in this hour you will really learn one or two things to help you in your board journey. As I said, if you've got any questions, please feel free to actually drop them in the chat box. Co-hosting the webinar with me is Oluwaseyi. I'm going to ask Oluwaseyi to actually introduce herself before I actually just kick off on my end.
All right, everyone. Thank you, Norma, for the opportunity to speak at the first webinar for the year for your organization. And my name is Oluwaseyi Kehinde-Peters. I'm the founder of many institutions, but I'll say I'll just mention two. Pan-African Women Empowerment Network. It's a social enterprise that empowers African women with the competence, confidence, and connections that they need to lead and succeed. I'm also the founder of Tech Up Africa, a non-for-profit organization that provides scholarships to young Africans to thrive in the tech world. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Oluwaseyi. It's such a pleasure for actually us to have you in our webinar. And I think one of the things we will touch later on in the session for upcoming board members is the power of networking. So I met Oluwaseyi, I think, via a LinkedIn post over a year ago on LinkedIn, and we connected. And here we are, I think this is our second webinar together. So the power of connecting and networking. But thank you so much for being here. And to everyone here also doesn't know me, my name is Norma. I'm with the Sirdar group. I'm responsible for the board appointments, NEDs, chairs the different boards that we work with. I also work on the board advisory side as well with some of our clients. So I'm really happy to have everyone here and ready for us to actually kick off our session. And I thought, Oluwaseyi, let me just kick off before we really talk about being board ready, what it takes to be board ready. I think one of the questions that someone who's here could be asking us today is, why should I pursue a board role? And why should I aspire to be a board member? Why do I want to actually sit on a board? And I think just simply to put it, one of the things that we always advocate for as the Sirdar group when we place board members is we always speak of having the different types of people on boards, the diversity. So for many executives, the boardroom always feels like, oh, that's my next step. I'm slowing down. I'm retiring. I want to pause on my career. What else can I do? And then they're like, no, let me think of sitting on a board. But the reality is very different. Sitting on a board is not a reward for longevity on your executive career. It's a very strategic leadership role that really allows executives to extend their influence beyond just a single organization. I always sum it up in three things. When you sit on a board, you move from doing in your executive role to guiding, you move from executing to oversight, and you move from just being a voice for one organization to collective stewardship for different organizations. So it is a very interesting role. It's a role that really looks at, not just next step, I've done my board, I've done my executive career, now I want to relax. It's about what can I give, what value can I add, where can I add oversight and value. Sorry, Oluwaseyi. But I think as we've answered that, I want to throw this back to you. You work with executives, you work with women, you work with men all over the continent. How does one shape a personal strategy for a board appointment? What are the key things that you would say, look at this, how can they develop a tailored roadmap when they're starting off their journey?
Fantastic, thank you. So, first things first, and this is taken from one of my favorite authors, I'll say begin with the end in mind, right? Um, and the end is not you getting the boardroom. No, that's not the end. The end is at the end of that boardroom, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want? If someone talks about you being on the board, what testimonial, for lack of better words,
Yeah.
would you want them to have? So that's always the beginning point, right? And so when you start with that, you now then have clarity as to with respect to what kind of board roles do I want to, and what kind of organizations do I even want to support? That's the first thing you need to have clarity on. So for me, I always say the road to building a personal strategy is focused on 5 key pillars, right?
Mhm.
And the first is clarity. And under clarity, I'll say begin with the end in mind. And what's the end goal for you? Because it's not just about being on a board. The question is, what value do you want to add to that board? You don't just want to be, boards are not just looking for numbers. No, boards are strategic, boards are deliberate, boards invite people to join them for a gap that they currently have. So the question is, how are you able to fill that gap? And what unique value? And I always say, what's your unique value proposition when you sit on a board? You have to have all those things clear. So it's just like when you're job hunting. You're not job hunting because you want a job. You're job hunting because you want to add value to the organization. Same with the board. So have clarity with respect to what will the end look like? What's my value proposition? What skills do I want to bring on board? Whether you have it or not is a totally different ballgame, but you must have clarity on the what that you want to achieve on that board. Next thing will not then be to develop the competence, right? So you remember I said that it doesn't matter whether you have the competence or not, but you just need to have clarity with respect to what's the end goal? What do I need to develop? What are my value systems? What is my unique value proposition? Then competence. The easy way to develop competence, and this is a cheat sheet for anyone, right? Go to LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn, what they call it, brand ambassador any day, anytime. Identify the people that sit where you want to be. It's not difficult. Use your keywords well and search for people who are sitting on the boards of organizations where you want to sit. Especially people, because don't also forget that boards, you need to even first have understanding of how boards work. So boards usually have different subgroups that are called committees, right? For you to be on a board, you must be on a committee. So what committee do you want to sit on? Again, I say, whether you have the competence or not, it doesn't matter. But what committee do you want to sit on? So then look for people who are where you want to be, pretty much. And not just look for one person, look for people across different geographies and across different industries, and then map out what are the competencies that these people seem to have. What are the unique things that are common to all of these people in terms of the certifications that they have, in terms of the experience that they have, in terms of the knowledge that they have. You can also glean the books that they read, where they source information from, and all of that. Have an understanding of the competence gap between where you want to be. Don't forget that these people whose profiles that you're looking at are people who want to be who are where you want to be. And then map out that gap between where they are and where you are, and how you're going to feel that journey. So for everyone, this is going to be different. And so that's why there's no one size fits all approach to this. And the way I like you to think around is, imagine every one of us in this call wants to go to Davos, for the World Economic Forum. Depending on, I live in the UK, my journey to Davos will be probably shorter than someone who's in Cape Town, right? And so that's the way to think around your personal journey. You may have some advanced skills with respect to the committee you want to sit on and the organization you want to sit on. Some people want to sit on large cap organizations. Some will say, you know what, I'm fine with mid cap. Some will say, you know what, I really just want to sit on a small cap company. So you need to understand where you want to, what the end goal is like, and then develop the competence. And then the third point is the confidence. In my journey, I've seen many capable women capable of serving on boards, but there's not just that confidence, right? And how do you build confidence? Gather in with people, mix with peers who are on the same journey as you are. Look for mentors who are able to share the knowledge, who are able to share the experience. Because really, being on a board is not rocket science, right? But most importantly, be careful with be deliberate about the circles in which you go. I mean, join organizations like Sirdar. Sirdar can help you get those. I mean, they organize webinars like this that will help you build the confidence, right? And if you're a woman, you can join PAWEN. We have networks of women across Africa who are on that journey to becoming board ready and who are working together to build that confidence. And we have mentors that come on board every quarter, just to tell you their story, right? Now, my fourth C is now credibility, because there's so many women that have clarity with respect to where they want to go to, have the competence to deliver, have confidence that yes, they can do it. But question is, what's their credibility? Most boards are very risk averse, so they will not want to invite anyone to their board who does not have the credibility that you're not going to increase their risk profile. So you need to have that credibility, and you need to be deliberate about not only building the credibility, but also communicating your credibility. Because if you build it and you don't communicate it, hey, I mean, it's like a lamp that you put under a table, right? So how you building this credibility, and how you build the credibility, how you communicate and distribute the credibility is my last C, which is connections. Unfortunately, we still live in a world where people would rather work with people they know, like, and trust than people that they do not know. So how you building that connections, right? If I approach Norma for a board role now, she most probably would maybe skip some checks because, oh, she knows me, she has an idea of what I've done, and she has some sense of understanding of who I am. She would rather choose me than someone she doesn't know, she's never met, or just a CV that is sent to her. So you need to be deliberate about building that connections. You need to be deliberate about building the networks, because like they say, your network is your net worth. Yeah, I think that's how it's said. So those will be my 5 C's. One, you need to have the clarity. Secondly, you need to build the competence. Third, you need to build the confidence. Fourth, you need to, build the credibility that you need. And you can't do all of this without building the right connections. So those will be my 5 C's.
Wow, I love what you said. So never really thought of it the way you put it, begin with the end in mind. Because when someone's looking for a board position, I don't think that's how they're thinking, beginning with the end in mind and thinking of your legacy. But just one question, because I believe someone could probably ask that question, Oluwaseyi, is this is someone who has the C's, the credibility, the confidence, but they don't have the connections. They've never sat on a board before. What's one practical way that you would say this is the best way to actually get your first board position? How do they position themselves? I get asked that question a lot, and I always say, especially here in South Africa, I always give an example of someone with a property. I say, if you own a property within an estate or a complex, you can start by volunteering in the body cop and all of that stuff. But what's another way that someone who doesn't have connections or the experience, but they know they're capable of sitting on a board and executing, how can they go about it?
So whoever that is, don't worry, you're in good company. I always say I was not born with a silver spoon. So I did not, I'm not born with those connections, right? I built those connections. And I'll give some very practical ways, right? First is within your network. That's why I talked about credibility. You will be shocked how someone within your network who may not be a decision maker but has the ears of a decision maker will say, I know that person, I've seen what she's done, I can vouch for her. Do you want to talk to her? One of our biggest partners today came like that. It was an Uber driver, right, that introduced us to the secretary or the decision maker.
Wow.
Exactly. So start, sometimes we overthink this thing, right? So within your circle, what are you known for? Who can recommend you to someone based on their knowledge of you? Secondly, LinkedIn, LinkedIn, LinkedIn. I said that 3 times. First and foremost, I'm here because of LinkedIn, right? I have met a lot of incredible people in my life based off on LinkedIn. I have won awards because sometimes when people even put your name for awards, the first thing they're going to do is to check who this person is. And guess what? I want you to do something. Whilst we are speaking, Google your name. When you Google your name, the first post or the first entry that will come up is most likely LinkedIn. If it's not the first, it's in the top 3. Unless maybe you have an active blog or you are active on LinkedIn, will be the first thing that pops up. So if that's the first thing that pops up, where do you think you need to be building your credibility? LinkedIn.
Then
And it's not just about just being on LinkedIn. The question is, what does your profile say about you? What are you communicating? So when they go to, if you go to my LinkedIn, you'll be like, oh, wow, I want to connect with this person. I want to learn from this person. If I go to your LinkedIn, does that communicate that? As a board recruiter, if I go to your LinkedIn, what are you communicating on your LinkedIn profile? So LinkedIn is not just a place to just showcase your achievement. It's like an open website, a website where you don't need to pay to maintain, where you can showcase not only who you are, but also the value that you give. And how do you showcase the value that you give? Through your posts, but more importantly, through the comments that you know, through your commenting on relevant posts. So when you comment on, I know sometimes in short, sometimes I see some conversations and I'm like, oh no, I need to show these people the awesomeness of who I am. And I sit down and I deliberately craft a comment, and then you then say, oh, 100 people have viewed your profile in 1 hour. So commenting is the best strategy for you to showcase the value. So who you are is clearly seen on your profile. But because anyone can build a profile, right? You need to be deliberate about showing the value that you have through what I call strategic commenting. And just generally be a nice person. So you can do all of these things. No, really, yeah, sometimes we kind of overlook these things because if I call you on the phone and I get a very negative vibe, I may not be so quick to, want to continue conversation. So it's just also good to just generally be interested in people. Generally, I'm an introverted introvert, I tell people. So networking doesn't come easy. Norma may not believe this, but really, I am an introverted introvert. But one of the best ways I have found to network is to add value. So anywhere I am, and join groups. We're African, so we have all of these WhatsApp groups, right? Some of them are a bloody waste of your time, but there's some that are not a bloody waste of your time. The question is, what value are you adding to those groups? Who knows you in those groups? What value are you adding to those groups? When I'm in groups of people that matter, they will know that SKP is around. Because I'll be adding value. You say, SKP, I need you in my life. Oh, yes, I know. So just be, I call it value petals, right? What value petals are you dropping everywhere you're going? Now, your journey to the boardroom has to be deliberate, it has to be strategic, it has to be intentional, and you cannot achieve it without people.
Oh, that's so true. And I didn't want us to dwell too much on this point, but you keep raising these points that I actually think are very important for someone who wants really to build their profile. I had the pleasure of working with an international board some time last year. And when we got to the final stages of wanting to make the final selection and them appointing board members, we had to do what they call a social media audit. And for most of my candidates, the first thing that came up was obviously their LinkedIn profile, which is what you're talking about. But in that audit, we would come across some of the comments they made on posts. So how important is it for you for one to be selective in the things they comment about? Because some posts are really useless or very controversial or very political. Should directors shy away from such things, or can they engage since they're wanting to really have engagement? What would you advise?
So my first thing I'll say is that the internet never forgets. Whatever you post on LinkedIn, on any social media, even if you delete it, can still be traced towards you. So as much as possible, you ask yourself the question, 10 years from now, would I be proud of this comment that I'm making? And you just always do that double pause and pause before you click on send or click on post to say, will I be proud? Is it worth it? Because sometimes we're commenting just to vent our frustration, vent. Oh, is it worth it? You know what you do if you really want to do that? Go to your email, vent it in your email and send it to yourself. you know, you get, you need to be careful and deliberate because anything and everything that you say can and be used against you, not in the court of law, but in the court of those who make the selection, whether you get those posts, those roles or not. So I think you just need to be careful. It's not just worth it.
No, you're so right. Thank you so much, Oluwaseyi, for those insights. Um, just continuing with the way you just left off with, being board ready. One of the things I always like to talk about, because it's something I do on a daily basis, is I sit down and review profiles or CVs of potential candidates. And I'm always saying to candidates, you need to build a board ready profile that can open doors for you. And every time I say that, someone will send me their CV. The CV as is for the past 30 years they've been working, they send me their CVs. And it's where we then get to a point where I'm saying a board ready profile is not about the job titles you've had. It's not about, this is what you did when you worked for this company. It's about how do you clearly demonstrate your governance value when it comes to board role. Boards want evidence of judgment. What judgment did you take? What oversight? What strategic impact, not any operational detail. I don't know if you can agree with me on that, Oluwaseyi, that when we now look at the profiles, we move from being operational to being strategic. It's not about what I did, it's about what was my oversight here, what did I advise, how did I guide the organization.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you because what I always say is that what got you here won't get you there, right? So yes, you have all that experience. They're not hiring another employee.
Mm.
They're hiring someone that will add to the governance system of the organization. So even if you've not had a board role, you understand, first and foremost, you need to understand what boards do, because really, if you don't understand what boards do, question is, what exactly, why are you applying for boards,
Mm.
right? So with the governance, risk, and sustainability mindset in place, now review your job, everything that you have on your CV, and then bring out those places where you've acted as a board member would, and then highlight those places. And that's what you need to showcase on your CV and also on
That's
your
so
LinkedIn, because
mm.
sometimes you see someone's CV and you see their LinkedIn and you're wondering, okay, is this the same person? Uh,
Exactly.
I'm sure you must have come across such people. So you need to. It's just showing the governance aspect
Yes.
of your role, and whether you want to be on the audit committee. There's actually something as a governance committee, right? I sit on the governance committee on the board that I sit on, and so you just need to, some ethics, and depending on the cap size of the organization, depending on the industry of the organization, the committees and the boards will differ. So right, so you just need to understand where you want to sit and ensure that your CV showcases that.
That's so true. And I always say you need to get to a point where you package your story so that decision makers can immediately see where you fit and how you add value. And I would say a profile that's done very well doesn't look impressive. It opens doors. And
Absolutely.
One
All
of
right.
the things we advocate for as the Sirdar group is when we look at your board profile, we don't just look at your, your fit and proper for the role. We're not looking at just your education, your background, but we're looking at the energy you would bring to a board. And we make use of a profiling tool called the Contribution Compass, which is how we sort of look at your profile. What value do you bring to a board? What is your energy like? Which sort of board position would be suitable for you? And I always say to first time board members, it sort of really articulates who you are, because a lot of people do know what they're capable of, but they don't know how to articulate their value. And I like that you spoke on the unique value proposition. A lot of us don't know how to articulate the value proposition we bring. So the contribution compass, which we use at Sirdar, helps you really put all of that into perspective: your education, your executive career, your experience, and then finally, this is the energy I bring to the board. This is who I am in terms of value add. So yeah, thank you for that, Oluwaseyi. And we will obviously touch on governance a lot here, because when you speak of boards, we speak of governance. And when you tell the executives, how do you position your experience for governance level impact? Because I see that's where a lot of them struggle, because they always say, the first thing they say, but I'm not a governance professional. Like every organization has a governance framework. Even you as an individual, I have my own personal governance framework. I know it's a bit over the top, which I live by, but every organization has. So as an executive, you need to be able to position yourself for governance level impact when applying for these board positions, because this is what the organization, the decision makers are looking for. Boards really care less about what you're in. They care more about how you influence strategy. How did you manage the risk? Did you exercise independent thinking? They're looking at such things. And when executives translate their experience into oversight, challenges, and long-term value creation, boards clearly see their contribution at governance level. So it doesn't have to be, when we say governance, it sort of scares a lot of first-time board members. It doesn't have to be so complicated. I don't know if you want to add on to that, Oluwaseyi, because I know the governance word always does scare a lot of people.
Well, yes, it does, but the question is, it doesn't have to, right? And if it then scares you, go for the education that you need, right? There are a lot of board readiness programs out there. I mean, I would always advocate for women to join ours, right? Not because it's mine, but we have 100% net promoter score, right? So that means everyone who has come through our programs have said good things about our programs. It also, and we've also been, we've been accredited by the DRC organization, which is risk, I can't remember, is one of the global risk organizations, certification organizations in the world. And so if they have accredited our curriculum, that shows you that, yes, we have something there. So but it doesn't necessarily have to be ours, right? Just go for education. If there's anything, I always say this, right? The difference between you and Obama, right, is just based on what he knows, who he knows, and the experience he's had, right? But you can solve the what he knows part by just being a lifelong learner. Go and learn. And if you don't want to learn, Google is your friend, like I say, right? So just gain. So governance seems to be like a big word, but it's not, right? It's a lot of things depending on the industry and the organization, but you can learn this. And that's why I always advocate going for a board readiness program. I think also, just as a gift to everyone who is here, I'm going to share, we have a free webinar that has been done at some point on board readiness. And one of my teammates will share the link shortly. And I think my executive assistants are here, so someone is going to share the link. You can just go and listen, right? And this was facilitated by one of the mentors on that program, just to understand what does governance mean? What does it mean to be board ready? Because myself and Norma, we're really, really passionate about getting more people on boards this year, right? So you just need to get the knowledge. Just get the knowledge. Because I can't give you a blanket answer, because different industries require different things on the board.
That's
Okay.
so true. I love that you touched on the learning. Because becoming a lifelong learner will literally open you up more to different opportunities and more boards. And it's always the same question that I get to say, Norma, which program can I tackle? And I like that you've got the board readiness program with PAWEN. We've got the Sirdar applied directorship program as well, and we also do have a board readiness program. I always say to the directors, just learn something, just do something. It doesn't matter whether you've done it with Sirdar, you've done it with IODSA or PAWEN, but it really opens you up more. It really gives you more exposure. And you also really get to network with a different group of people. So I believe your details have been shared on the chat box, and Link can also share the ADP program as well. Let's learn some. You've got a lot of this free program and free courses all over LinkedIn as well. I think the more you learn, the more you can keep abreast with what's happening. Of lately, someone said to me, what are the buzzwords what are you looking for in board CVs? I said, listen, we will always talk of governance, we'll talk of things like ESG. And someone's like, I'm not aware of what that is, hence the learning aspect. 2018, we're really heavy on technology, AI, and a lot of that, and digital transformation. And couple of years later, we're on ESG, and we're constantly evolving, and boards are evolving, organizations are evolving. So the more you learn, the more you know what's happening in the market. I would rather you are in an interview where you say, I don't have hands-on experience in ESG, but I understand what it's all about. Or I'm not a technical person, but I do understand digital transformation and automation and things like that.
I would even have a problem with that. I mean, and I'll tell you why. So, yes, you know what ESG is all about. Having been able to apply it even within your small, sometimes we're always waiting for the big stages. Having
Yes.
been able to apply ESG, terms or pillars or within your network, within your organization, even in your personal life, right? Have you been able to, embody digital automation, principles, right? I can give you examples. Yes, I've led a digital transformation project, but assume that I have never learned it. I will tell you that, look, my entire life is digitized. Everything from connecting with me, engaging with me, everything is digitized. So, from as simple as that, because, I always say that if you can make any piece of information simple enough for a 5-year-old to understand, then that means you understand it, right? So if you can showcase even simple applications of digital transformation, ESG, climate change, that seems to be like the buzzword right now. If you can just apply that in simple ways, even within your context, for me, it shows me that, look, if you can apply it within your context, you can apply it anywhere.
That's so true. I believe over a year ago, I wrote an article on LinkedIn. It's about a children's book by Dr. Seuss. And the book, when you really read it as an adult, is about ESG. Literally reading that book as an adult, I'm like, oh my word, we are teaching children about ESG way before ESG became a buzzword. So there we have it. And, as we get to the final stages, Oluwaseyi, how does one expand their influence through the right networks? How can they gain visibility and access to the right people, the right rooms, the right groups, the right committing? What's a strategic way to network to gain boardroom visibility?
Okay, I've said it before, but this time around, I'm going to give examples of what
Okay.
I have done. All right. So, some years ago, 6 years ago, I joined they call it community group, but it's really a group of women in leadership positions across Nigeria. Now, there was a faith-based initiative, but yes, I joined, right? And here you had these women, C-suite leaders from everywhere. But guess what I did? I decided to add value, right? So I wasn't the leader of the group as at that time, but the year I joined, I was adding value. Everyone knew who SKP was. I was always dropping insights and info. For me, it's all you can't come in contact with me and not get some value. It's not possible. So the question is, how are you, just as a tree will give off its leaves, how are you giving the petals of the value that you carry? And you cannot give off those petals if you do not know the value that you carry. So I think it starts from self awareness to say, what's the value that I have? And if you feel you do not know, ask people around you, now, what do you like about me? really just ask people, because you'll have blind spots also. There may be some value patterns that you are giving off because it comes so naturally to you. You do not understand that it's given so much value. So what value patterns what value do you currently give? But more importantly, how can you continue to develop yourself such that you can constantly be a person of value? 6 years down the line, none of I don't think there's any cohort of that program that does not know me. There's no member of that cohort that does not know me. It's not possible. You must have either listened to my sessions because you're always inviting me to speak, or you must have reached out to say, oh, SKP. In short, a lot of people had challenges with LinkedIn. I became a LinkedIn coach, not because, it's not something, and that's why you never see it anywhere that I coach people on LinkedIn. But yes, on a yearly basis, I started teaching women in leadership how to leverage LinkedIn for visibility and for results and, for strategic connections. So it's something I started doing, and that's just one of the different value pairs, because I'm like, okay, I'm so good at this thing. Yeah, I got some award for it. Yeah, can I share? And it's absolutely free of charge. It's not everything that you monetize, right? So, I think we have too many of those groups because people want to work with people they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
So the question is, how can you get people to know you? You will only get access into places by service, by value, and when you not begin to add value, there's a board that I joined, one of my mentors, actually, this mentor that I spoke about, I got access to her from that group. I didn't know her before, right? But she took one of the sessions and I was like, oh, I love that session. I reached out to her. I never asked her, oh, I want you to be my mentor. But over the years, we've just developed, a mentoring, relationships, CEO of one of the biggest banks in Nigeria and all of that. 2 years ago, she invited me to be on the board of her organization.
Oh.
I would never have gotten that if I was not adding value. So sometimes we overthink these things, forgetting that there's a lot of opportunities within our immediate network to showcase the value that we have. And I think I just like to focus on that because I know you may want to hear, oh no, just go on LinkedIn, post, but yes, that is good. But you know how many people are doing that? So what's start within your network? There's so much gold within the network that you have and that you're not mining, and maybe because you do not realize that there's gold within your network. Your father may not be Elon Musk, but yes, you can be on boards of such magnitude. You just need to believe, but most importantly, focus, because it's your network that would speak of you to bigger networks. I don't want to be preaching here, but I'm sure
Please preach away, but you're very right. I think it's all about networking. And you touched on something earlier to say when you look at someone's CV and you look at someone's LinkedIn profile, sometimes they're so worlds apart. And now when you really want to be visible, you want to make sure that as you've worked on your LinkedIn profile, your CV also communicates the same thing, and you are networking within the spaces that you really want to be found and networking with the right people. I do know that a lot of us are in groups, and just like you, I'm actually one of those introverted introverts where sometimes I'm a ghost in a group and I don't contribute at all. But you've just encouraged me to just not sit in those groups and to be a contributor, to add value somewhere, somehow, because that's the only way that then someone can know that, oh, Norma's good at this or Norma does this. And I also say,
let me give you a simple tip. All your board roles that you have, be posting this in those groups regularly. That's just a simple, it doesn't cost you anything, but yes,
you're
you're
so right.
giving access, you're giving opportunity. I never can tell, you may get some really fantastic candidates from there.
You're so right. Yeah, you're so right. And I know it's a lot of us because I speak to a lot of candidates, especially women, and they're like, but Norma, I'm very quiet. I don't want to write a post on LinkedIn. I don't want to comment. And I don't know what to write about. I always say at one point or another, you're probably subject matter expertise on something. You're either a governance professional, a CFO, or something. Write about your industry, talk about your industry, attend your industry events, connect to to people, within that space as a starting point. If you're one of those very quiet people, but thank you. I will start posting on the groups, Oluwaseyi, because I know I'm a ghost in a lot of groups. I'm there. I'm very quiet. But I'll start
You
posting.
know what I also like to say to such people who will say, I don't want to write. Question I'll ask is, if your life depended on it, would you do it?
Mm,
But if you think your life doesn't depend on it, trust me, it does.
mm.
Trust me,
So
it does. Norma just told you how, they did a social media audit at the final stage. So who do you think will be selected? The ghost or the person who is showing up?
yeah. We all have something of value to share to someone who might not know it. So you're very
And
right.
if you think, so let me, because sometimes for many people it may just be difficult, right? If you think, and I'm using the word think, that you don't have anything to write, don't even bother writing. Sure, I tell you this year, don't write any post. But guess what you'll do? Look for 5 posts every week and comment, give some value adding comments to that post. Don't put up any post. Don't put up yeah, on your birthday you can put up your picture, that's okay. But don't post anything, but just comment.
Mm.
By the time you begin to comment, by the time you begin to see other people's posts, in short, you'll become a content machine. Every day, post ideas will be coming onto you. Just start with commenting. That's an easy way to just start.
It's all right. Oluwaseyi, last year I met a very interesting candidate. He was a scientist. He's a scientist by profession. And he says, how does a scientist sit on a board? I look at those board positions advertised, and they're looking for someone with a legal background, financial background. And Noma, I've never envisioned someone like me sitting on a board. And he just had a LinkedIn profile with one sentence, scientist. And my advice to him was, let's work on your LinkedIn profile, be visible, work on your updating your CV. And I said to him, there are roles for what you do. You are what I'll call a subject matter expertise. You're what I call there's a breadth or a depth candidate. So you are very science focused in what you do for the past 20 years. So you're a breadth candidate. So there are organizations that could be looking for that type of experience. And that was last year in June. And I saw quite recently, he is actually commenting a lot on on all of these things. And this is someone who never thought they could actually sit on a board. And he said recently, I've just been nominated on a committee of a very big organization. Thank you so much for saying myself out there. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, whether you're a breadth candidate or a depth candidate, you're still needed in these boards.
Absolutely, absolutely. In short, more now so because the profiles of who sits on board is changing significantly, right? A lot of people are looking for subject matter experts, like you mentioned, and people with lived experience, so anyone and everyone can be a board member. You just need to find that board
Yeah.
you can add value to. Don't also forget, you don't just want to sit on a board because you want to be another number. You want to
Yeah.
sit on a board that when you are gone, they will know that someone passed through this governance circle.
Hence the begin with the end in mind. I am stilling it, I am living by it. And as we get to the end of our program, Oluwaseyi, what would you say are the pitfalls, the mistakes that stall board ambition in candidates?
The first mistake is waiting to be invited. I don't know why. I mean, you see people who nobody has invited me yet. Hello, apply, apply.
Mm.
Look for those platforms. First place, Sirdar is a good place to be, right? I don't know if they have a whatever. At least let them have your CV, right? Because anytime they have board roles, they would always start with the profiles of the people that they have, right? Before they now go. So find those recruitment board and recruitment organizations, and just look for them. Make sure your CV is there. Apply, apply, apply. Just apply,
Yes.
and don't apply blindly. I'm not one of those people. If it's one application a quarter, but make sure that it's an application that stands out, right? And the reason why I say so is that I currently sit on the board of one of the oldest faith organizations in the world. And the only reason they reached out to me was because I had applied to that agency for a previous board role, which they didn't even contact me for, right? And then when this came, because they looked at my profile fits what they were looking out for. They reached out to me the first time. I didn't even answer them. They reached out to me the second time. They reached out to me the third time and asked me that I should please just even take a look, because because I think they were tracking it and they saw that I'd not even opened the trail of messages. And then I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, oh, this is what I love, right? So just apply, right? Because by so doing, you're distributing yourself. So don't wait to be invited. You will be invited at some point, but yes, don't wait for that. I think the second mistake that I see a lot is because we are C-suite leaders, we have this like 2 decades or 3 decades of technical experience. We want to showcase that. Whilst that is fantastic, that's not what I'm looking for on the board. I can employ you as an employee, but I won't invite you to my board because of your 4 decades or whatever of technical expertise. No. So question is, what governance experience are you bringing on board? That is what you need to showcase. And that's why I always say start with the end in mind, because if you have an idea of what the end is, you will communicate the value that you have
Yes.
well on your CV. So your CV will no longer be about your expertise. That would obviously show, right? They'll look at the roles that you've taken and they'll know that, oh, this person. So you don't need to talk about that. But question is, how have you managed risk? How have you helped shape the strategy and the direction of an organization? How have you protected an organization during a period of crisis? How have you ensured financial sustainability, right? Those are the things that you want to showcase. So always showcase governance value over expertise.
That's all
And
right.
now, and I think the third thing, no, I have quite a number, but because of time, don't assume that because you're qualified, it unlocks access. I mean, I've seen people who say, oh, by the time they see my CV, they will know. No, ma'am, no. Your qualifications doesn't automatically open those doors for you. So don't forget my 5 C's. That is what will open doors for you. Your qualification won't. And in case you've forgotten, clarity and competence, credibility, no, clarity, competence, confidence, credibility,
And
and then
connections.
connections. Those are the things that will open, not necessarily, you know. And then leveraging the power of sponsors. Sponsors are people who speak for you when you're not in the room. You need to be deliberate about building. And it's not like you go and meet someone and say, oh, I want you to be my sponsor. No. That's why I talked about value petals. If you spread your value petals far and wide enough, many people will speak for you. And you need more people speaking for you than people speaking against you. Without be people who will speak against you, it gets to a height in your career that you can't just help it. There'll be people who speak against you. But who speaks against you doesn't matter. You need more people speaking for you. And that's really what matters. So ensure. So you see, it's a deliberate thing.
Yeah.
Your value petals has to be deliberate. And don't think that, oh, that person works in this organization. So if I'm good, no, 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 you never know. I've talked about how, an Uber driver unlocked an opportunity that I never, and we're just gisting, I took the Uber and we're just gisting. I do it just because I like it. So you just never know, right? And I think I'll just stop it at there because of time.
Thank you so much. We have a question, so, and I'd love for you to answer it because of how your network is really fast spread. The person is asking, can you shed the light if it is correct to target both seats within one's area or how to target the region? Can you shed the light if it's correct to target both seats within one's area or how to target the region? So I'm assuming they're speaking of location, really. Can they target both seats in their location or can they target seats in the region and how do they go about it?
What's stopping you from targeting both? Nothing. Nothing. Target it. Target it. Go for it. That's why you need the confidence. Go for it.
Yes.
If it's in Switzerland and you're based in Nairobi, go for it. What's the worst that will happen? They won't answer you. And that's the same thing that will happen even if you don't do anything now. So just go for it. And so what's the strategy for you? Like I said, look for the companies or the recruitment agencies, that hire specifically for board roles, and make yourself known. Simple, right? But don't also forget, sometimes um, it's not done through recruitment. Sometimes they go on LinkedIn and they say, what are you always talking about? What are you always, someone has seen me and said, SKP, I want you to be on my board. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't. But people and guess what? Many of our board, I need to say this, many of our board, because we're on a board readiness program, right? Many of them have gotten board roles from their LinkedIn comments and posts.
That's so true.
Many of them, many, I just remembered that now. Many of them are, someone saw my post and invited me to be on their board. And the board, it's a board journey, right? It's a journey, right? So start from where you are. It may be, you may want to start from a nonprofit or from a startup, but the requirements of being on the board in a startup and a nonprofit is different from large cap organizations. But you just need to understand, but start somewhere, just start somewhere. It may be in your local church or mosque or any religious organization. Like just start somewhere,
Just
because
start.
what happens is that you're building the muscles that you need for bigger boards. The only reason why I got some of the board roles that I just started this month, really, but they spent the whole of 2025 getting to know me. The recruitment was conducted like March last year, but between March and December, they were just getting to know me before all the documentation was done. But that was also because I sat on quote unquote smaller boards. Okay, so just start somewhere, start.
Oh, there we have it, just start. So before we close, Oluwaseyi, I know you've spoken about the PAWEN offerings and how you support aspiring board members. Do you mind just touching up on that before I also touch on the Sirdar stuff? And I'll ask our teams, your EA team and Lynn, to just share the links of offerings and support pathways.
Yes, so they're going to share it now, but we have a board readiness program for women, specifically African women. Apologies. My focus is on African women, right? And in this 12-week program, we're going to take 10 to 12 weeks. We're going to take you through everything that you need to know to be an effective board member. Don't forget, I always start with the end in mind. So, but our program covers from what is governance to digital transformation, ESG, and we bring in experts from all over the world, to take you on these. So it's a 10 module program. Yeah, we have 10 modules in that program, and take you on everything that you need to know. I'm sure my colleagues will be dropping the links to it. We are having it this year in the third quarter, so you can join the wait list. Because what happens is that once you open an application, we start with the wait list, right? So just go to the wait list and you get more information about. But follow us on our social media, right? Follow us on our social media, or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always talking about my organization. So please share my LinkedIn profile. And I'd like to connect with everyone here. If you have any questions, I know we're running out of time. We'll not be able to take more questions. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm very nice on LinkedIn, and I'm nice.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to start calling you SKP like everyone else. So thank you so much for that,
Yes.
On the Sirdar side, we've got our applied directorship program, which is a 12-month program. Candidates meet once a month for 4 hours. As the name implies, it's very applied. So you've got the theory side of what it takes to really sit on a board and add impact. And we also have the practical side, the applied side, where you are able to have practical insight of what it's like to be a board member, chair a board meeting, be a board member in one of the teams that you're put in. We also have the Sirdar Director Network. Membership is currently free of charge, so you can connect with me. I'll send you the link and the forms for you to join anytime we have board positions. Before we can really go out and head hunt into the market, we actually do send emails or connect with all our network members to see if they're interested in the role or they know anyone else who might be interested in the position. We also have the contribution compass profiling tool, which is what we use, to assess what energy would you bring on board. We spoke about your unique value proposition. So if you really want to better articulate what value you bring to a board or what value you bring to a team, it's not just for boards, it's even for teams at work. You can also get in touch with me and we can share the information on contribution compass. And if you're also wanting, to hire for executive team and you don't know what sort of profile you're looking for, we do have a free link that we can actually send to you, and you can just fill in the questions, and at the end of that, the questions, it will tell you what sort of personality, energy would be a match for the role. Other than that, please do connect with us on LinkedIn. Happy to continue the conversation on LinkedIn. Any final remarks on your side, Oluwaseyi? Anything you want to add?
Okay, so I just want to say that look, you have a finite time in this world, and you need to be deliberate about your board journey. It's not something, I mean, for most people, it doesn't just fall on their laps. You need to be deliberate, and you need to be intentional about how you build the clarity, how you build the competence, how you build the confidence, how you build the credibility, and most importantly, how you build the connections that will help you not only get on that board, because don't forget, the goal is not for you to get on the boardroom. No, the goal is for you to add such awesome value that your name is engraved into the legacy of the organization. And thank you all, right? I wish you all the best in your board journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And I think, as I said, my final remarks, I love what you said, begin with the end in mind. Network, network, network. Please apply. Even if you feel I don't have experience, I've had the pleasure of placing first-time board members who didn't have experience but were capable of sitting on those roles. So don't shy away from actually applying and putting yourself out there. It's all about networking. It's all about the one of the C's, connection. So who you connect with matters. So connect with us on LinkedIn, connect with us, and we will take this conversation further. Thank you so much, Oluwaseyi. It's been a pleasure, and I know we're going to do a lot of this year.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. We look forward to connecting with everyone on LinkedIn. Drop us an email on LinkedIn or inbox us, and we're happy to chat and see how we can best assist everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.